This is Molly Hemingway, encouraging you to listen to my favorite podcast, Issues, Etc. Every day you get in-depth interviews with host Todd Wilken asking expert guests substantive, thought-provoking questions on all of the important news and issues of our day. The expert guests are in culture, law, ethics, philosophy, theology, and apologetics. Expert guests, expansive topics, always extolling Christ. Issues, etc.
It is now common knowledge that the abortion pill, chemical abortion, is the most popular form of abortion, and part of that is because it is now so very easy with the Biden administration freeing up any regulation on the pill. It can be gotten through the mail by anyone on anyone's behalf, and often without even consulting with the doctor in any real way. So this wild west of the abortion industry needs some regulation. The FDA is the one to do it, but so far they've been dragging their feet. What about Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche? Welcome back to Issues, Etc. I'm Todd Wilken. Joining us to talk about the FDA, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, and abortion drugs, Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the Susan B. Anthony List, author of a recent column for The Federalist titled Todd Blanche Can End Biden's Illegal Mail Order Abortion Scheme Now. Marjorie, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be with you again, Todd.
Tell us about the study by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration on the safety of abortion drugs.
Well, it got kind of a jagged start in the beginning under the previous FDA commissioner. We didn't really see a lot of activity going, to be perfectly honest. And so many people, many great pro-life people kind of expressing concern, noise that what we know in terms of our own research and other organizations' research, that the harms to women because of the abortion drug have been cataclysmic for women and dealing death to kids. So what did happen is good news, and that is that the FDA did, especially after the court case with Louisiana, really started up the engines to do a authentic and sincere study. We know that under the previous administrations that the only thing required to be reported was death. And so doing these studies is not a simple thing. They have to really go after Medicaid data and all sorts of other things. It is moving in earnest. It needs to be done because of the court order by early October at a minimum, just to get some of the initial findings out there so that they know how to proceed. But that is moving.
Go into some detail here. What do we already know about the safety of abortion drugs?
Well, our Charlotte Lozier Institute found that 81% of online abortion businesses send mifepristone to kill children way beyond the 10-week time frame that the FDA established. 81% after 10 weeks. There's one case in Texas of a stillborn baby, so clearly way beyond 10 weeks. The mother had already named the baby Presley May. The man slipped the abortion drug into her drink, and the baby was stillborn. So 81%. And then 30% of women reported unexpected levels of bleeding after taking the drugs. As many as 11% suffer serious adverse effects like hemorrhaging, infection, and sepsis. And the data just goes on. And these are Medicaid studies that we and other organizations have done with our scale. But clearly the FDA, with the massive federal budget that it has, should have been doing this all along, was not, and now is.
Why has the FDA become, over the last couple administrations, so lax on abortion drugs?
I really think that it has been a product of abortion politics more than anything else. Now, this is what I think. It's my opinion. I don't have data to show it. But all I do know is that if this were Theraflu and there were a lot of adverse events occurring all over the country, there would be a ton of focus. It would be all the media could talk about. The politicians would be jumping up to fix the thing right away. And there would have been quick administrative action in the executive branch. I think everyone's afraid of the A word, and fear is never a good driver of public policy. I will say this, though, that there are heroes in the House and the Senate, the leadership in both chambers, committee chairs, People like, God rest his soul, Lindsey Graham, Josh Hawley from Missouri, so many, and then Senator Cassidy from Louisiana, so many who have really been insisting that, yes, a study should be done, but that also the DOJ, Department of Justice, should take action to settle the case that Louisiana brought to the FDA to sue them over the undermining of their laws and the damaging of their women. Settle that case with the state of Louisiana, and you can stop it immediately. So I think, just to go back to what you said, why? I think because of fear. But in the same moment, there have been a lot of people that have been really insisting that something be done.
So you had mentioned that case, and Attorney General Todd Blanche, what specifically does he need to do right now?
It is very simple. It's called a consent decree. And a consent decree is just when you are at odds in a legal case, as the Department of Justice and the state of Louisiana, joined by several other states, are. You can say, look, we are going to both sign a consent decree that goes ahead and sets the argument aside and resolves it in the way that you should. So all that needs to be done is that there was a Administrative Procedures Act was violated when the rules surrounding the distribution of the drug changed. Those rules were changed during COVID in a way that was unlawful. And so what that decree would be would just require that the drugs be taken out of the mail. It doesn't stop the drugs from being made. It just stops them from being sent into pro-life states, undermining those laws, killing those children, and allowing coercion of those women.
Why do you think the administration is allowing the Biden rules to stay in place?
I think it's been a lack of attention. I think that there has been a lack of focus on it. There's a disagreement at DOJ, Department of Justice, and with the acting attorney general, whether this is a thing that can and should be done, this consent decree. But I think the arguments that we've been making, that our Senate allies have been making, and Blanche's in his confirmation hearings, I think have been heard. And so I still believe that there is a lot of hope that this could get done. And let's just be clear about what would happen. If the Department of Justice settled with the state of Louisiana on this matter, no drugs would be allowed to be mailed into any pro-life states in the way that they have been now. And it would save hundreds of thousands of children over time. It's estimated that 15,000 children are dying in pro-life states that have strong pro-life protections. 15,000 are dying because of these drugs, and that is at a minimum. So that is where we are, and it can really easily be quickly fixed.
You say that this inaction makes absolutely no sense. What do you mean by that?
It makes no sense because the rules surrounding the distribution of the abortion drug that predated the Dobbs decision, the overturn of Roe v. Wade, those had always been focused on at least the health of women. Under the Obama administration, under the Biden administration, under the first Trump administration, no one was allowed to prescribe, and then California and New York ship those drugs into any states without an in-person doctor visit. The in-person doctor visit being under COVID was jettisoned because it was seen as an emergency. Women had to get their abortion drugs without a doctor visit. And then post-Dobbs, all those pro-life states, the big move on the abortion lobby's part was to make sure that abortion drugs continued to go into those states even though COVID was over. So what's crazy is that these women are being harmed at the hands of women purporting to speak for women. The children are being killed in states that have strong pro-life protections, and everyone just seems to be sitting on the sidelines watching. We think that there's still a way forward to get some sanity in these laws, get the drugs out of the mail, get women the health care that they actually need. If you don't have a sonogram, you don't know if you have an ectopic pregnancy. You don't know if you don't have a blood test. You don't know if you have certain factors that would lead to a second child's death, potentially. So we're kind of back to, is the doctor-patient relationship, is that sacrosanct or is it not? Planned Parenthood and people who purport to speak for women need to reread some of their old press releases.
Is there any legal or political reason to keep those Biden rules in place?
No, there is no legal or political reason that they should stay in place. That's why it makes no sense.
What do you expect Acting Attorney General to do once the FDA has released its report?
Well, I think you could wait for the FDA to release its report, but you don't have to wait for the FDA to release its report. They're two different tracks. The FDA finally is doing what it should be doing, working on that report. What are the real harms to women when they don't see a doctor? But the DOJ is in a completely different lane. They have a conflict with states who have sued the FDA. And there is no reason that he needs to wait. He could do it tomorrow. And that consent decree, that settling with those states, would restore the rules surrounding the distribution of the drug. Women would have to get a doctor's visit, but they wouldn't be shipped into states that have strong pro-life laws, undermining those laws and hurting those women and killing those kids.
Marjorie Dannenfelser is president of the Susan B. Anthony List. She's author of a recent column for The Federalist titled Todd Blanche Can End Biden's Illegal Mail Order Abortion Scheme Now? You'll find a link to the Susan B. Anthony List on the podcast page for this episode at issuesetc.org. Marjorie, thanks.
Thank you so much.
We will get a roundup of freedom of speech and religion issues in Europe with Lorcan Price of Alliance Defending Freedom International next.
We're going to have to be vigilant on two different fronts. We're going to have to defend the truth about the human person, made in the image and likeness of God, created male and female, created for marriage. We're also going to have to defend our freedom to live according to those truths.
Dr. Ryan Anderson, president of the Ethics and Public Policy Center and member of the White House Religious Liberty Commission, speaking at this year's Issues Etc. Making the Case conference.
Over and over again, we're going to see that we have to form the next generation of our students, of our children, our grandchildren to believe the truth, while also defending our freedom to live it out. And then the long game is reforming our civil laws to reflect the truth.
You can watch Ryan Anderson's presentation, Making the Case for Social Conservatism, from the 2026 Issues Etc. Making the Case conference. For a donation of $250 by Labor Day, we'll send you a link to watch an on-demand video stream and download audio recordings. Order online at issuesetc.org.
Where Christianity meets culture, you're listening to Issues Etc.
The Lutheran Church Missouri Synod's Life Ministry cares for pregnant women sharing the love of Christ. Listen to Pastor Ed DeWitt with Redeeming Life Outreach Ministries.
One of the first residents we had said to me, "Pastor, why do you do this?" And I said, "Just stick with me through this class, and when we're done, you'll understand completely." Many of the women, as they go through the instruction, when we get to that part about baptism, they're like, "Pastor, I want that for my baby. I want my baby to be adopted into God's family."
God's Mission Here, lcms.org/national mission.
Criticism.
Thank God that it's 5:01 and the show is over.
Commendation.
I am not a Lutheran, but I regularly listen to Issues Etc. and thank you for putting this on the air.
Conundrum.
A Catholic friend has come to our LCMS church, and he said, "Why do you say very God, a very God?" And I couldn't think of a good answer.
The Issues Etc. comment line, 618-223-8382.